Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll just give it a few more minutes, see if more will join us, and then we'll get started. I hope everybody had a wonderful Friday evening, and thanks for coming to share your time with us. All right, I think we can get started. Once again, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to be discussing thriving with lupus. And this is about Lupus Warriors and how they get through their day to day in their different spheres of influence or areas of, what do you call this? Self actualization. So we talk about like in our lives at home, whether it's lives at work, the entire scope of it, just basically what you do in your day to day lives and how you get by doing it in that sense. So, because we're trying to see how you're able to navigate all those challenges, considering like things like the workplace for those who are currently in that situation, what it is that you do to meet the expectations, and how to ensure that you are your own sense of advocacy in those positions or those places, interacting with your colleagues or your superiors or managers, or if you're in one of those non-hierarchical organizations, how you're able to communicate your needs and how you achieve your goals. But that's just in the situation for work, but we're going beyond that. So feel welcome, feel ready, as well as supporters, those who actually know other Lupus Warriors in their work situations, or any kind of insights you might have gleaned just from these conversations we've been having in the past, and how you can extrapolate those to a scenario where maybe you meet somebody who's living with lupus but also thriving with lupus. So welcome, thanks again. This is courtesy of the Lupus Ascending community. We are very happy that you've given us your time and your experiences, and definitely your knowledge, which is very valuable. Thank you. So, I am okay with opening up the floor to anyone who wants to get us started with their experiences, whether as a supporter or a warrior. You can raise your hand or you can chat me. If we're not just ready to go in like the next 1 minute or so, maybe I can share my own experiences with a lupus warrior in the workplace. Okay. Thanks for joining us. We are grateful for joining the group. Probably I can get started with my own experience with someone who was thriving with lupus at a former place of employ. So, of course, there's the first aspect is that being an invisible illness, as we put it, as we colloquially say, my colleague, it was not obvious that she had, of course, lupus, right? So it was just a case of we just kept working pamoja. They were in a different department, so it was always interacting, very cordial, no issues at all. Sometimes it'd be like, where is this person? They're not around. Not that like I was a superior or supervisor. Definitely did not have that role. But it's not that I would notice like directly. It would be through another colleague, like, what's going on? So you'd find that sometimes they would not be around, but not for very long. But more often than not, they were at the workplace and they got their work done. They did everything. They got the tasks and what have you. And they were never really explicit about, like having their condition. And they got the work done. In fact, they had a very big role in the company, which was also very impressive. Obviously, this was dependent on their own skill set, not just the fact that they were a lupus warrior. And very competent. So it was always a case of there there was there was never any gap in the KPIs that were that were that were expected. They were always met. So in that sense, they were a very good worker. So later on, when I found out about their condition, which is not even an explicit communication from the Lupus Warrior, it was through a friend of theirs, and then afterwards, direct interactions, and they had also formed their own chapter, their own community that she was spearheading and managing it very well in that sense. So for me, my experience with directly with a Lupus Warrior in the workplace was that they got the work done. There was never any complaining, which was interesting, or any kind of people saying that the work is never done well. Hakuangi saa zote. That never came up, at least as far as I knew. So, per my limited knowledge, she always got the work done in good time, and she was very competent. So, despite that being a Lupus Warrior, it meant that she was thriving, and she was able to make her own way in the world. But clearly, I did not know what extent the lupus might have affected her capability to do what she was doing. But on the surface of it, it was just a good case of me knowing someone who was thriving the lupus in the workplace. I also know of someone else who, though we did not work together, has also shown that they are capable of doing competent work. There are far more challenges in what they were able to do, but during the time that they were working, they did exceptional work. And I'm hoping that you hear from her at some point today. If not, it's okay. But I can attest to you that they do good work, and in many cases have also helped me raise my game. Especially when it comes to the communication and the posters that you see. Yes. So it is perfectly possible to thrive with lupus, especially when it comes to tasks like in the work environment or your own entrepreneurial, goals or activities, as well as in your own personal life. You're able to determine the kinds of goals you want to meet and what needs to get those goals met. Whether you're able to do it as the power of yourself or with the inclusion of your support network. So the whole idea of thriving is not something that we're just a label that we're sticking. It is a true aspect of somebody's own philosophy of life and how they engage with it, of course, while they're dealing with their own condition of being a lupus warrior. So those are my experiences. And so far, what I have seen, people who have overcome the complications and pushed through, or if they've not pushed through, they've been able to deliver somehow. In some cases, it almost felt like that was a small miracle that they got the job done, or they got to do what they needed to do. And afterwards, there was the satisfaction of having that accomplishment met, and in some cases exceeded. So that in itself is something that becomes inspirational, and in other cases, just like the way when I was unaware of the condition that they were living with, it became a somewhat aspirational aspect. Like, wow, that person really puts their, pedal to the metal and moves, and things get done. Yeah, despite the fact that sometimes I'm like, man, why is it morning? Nimechoka, woishe, so that kind of kujisikia huruma. But yeah, don't mind that. Those are just Monday feelings that I think everybody goes through, or maybe not. You can tell me otherwise if anybody has Monday issues. So, yep, those are my two stories from the outside looking in, and I am opening the floor since that's what this whole session is about. It's an open mic. The floor is everyone's to discuss about their understanding, their knowledge, as well as maybe their lack of knowledge about what it is to thrive while living with lupus. Thank you. Thank you very much, Doreen, for the kind claps. Thank you everyone. Thank you, Beatrice. Thank you, Yogi. Thank you, Mom. Yeah, asanteni sana. But yes, the floor now is beyond mine. Thank you, Rita. I appreciate the what do you call it? The outpouring of clapping. I feel very how do you put this? Affirmed. I'm sure there is a better way to put it, but don't worry about that. I am thriving with my lack of the right words. But yeah, karibuni sana. This is all our session, and feel free to just discuss. No, there what do you call it? There are no boundaries here. At least as far as I can think of any. Since we're all thriving, we're thriving today. This somewhat overcast Saturday morning, but at least we're doing okay. Not seeing any hands up yet, but no worries. In that sense, then what I'll do is I'll just ask a question. How many of us here are, know any lupus warriors who are thriving with lupus? You don't have to, speak. You can just raise a hand, even if they're not in a workplace. I love you. We have Yogi. Thank you very much. That's good. Anyone else? Okay, that's good. So we have we have one person. So clearly, it seems that it might not be common knowledge in how we interact with each other and what people are dealing with in their daily lives, which is I think is somewhat a complicated position that we find ourselves in the sense that we ourselves often determine that you don't want to tell people too much, especially in something like you find it might be complicated to understand or deal with, so that the disclosure of whether you are a lupus warrior or not is something that may not be. It's not like the way you tell someone, yes, I come here, natokanga Kitengela, Sbui, kite is like this. So that kind of information that is just just good for people to know in case of anything like where's the person living and how far are they and what have you. When something like this, which is deeply connected to the self, your own physical as well as psychological dimensions, then I think, and I can be corrected here, that it becomes more difficult to just disclose that, yes, you know what, I have lupus and this is what it's like, this is what it does. In many cases, because you find that, one, the awareness probably is not as expansive as you'd like it to be. So someone would go, oh, what is that? And then probably the next thing is the assumption like, but you don't look like you're ill. And you say, well, yes, that's because what's going on is happening on a microscopic level, affecting many tissues, and in any moment, generally, I am trying to just get past a particular thing, whether it's pain, joint pain, or like mobility issues and the like. Or in some cases, it can even be like, yes, Doreen. Thank you. Would you like to speak? Okay. Yes.
I would.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. You're welcome.
For me, what I normally tell myself is that although my body might seem to be broken, my mind is not. So I am thankful for that. Um, I used to say that all the time. That was like my mantra. It used to give me confidence because sometimes when I used to work, I really, really, really am excited to go to work the next day. And then I wake up because I picked out my clothes for the previous day. I mean, the previous day I picked out the clothes. So I'm ready to go. You know, my feet is ready. And then I wake up in the morning and I find, oh, I can't wear these clothes. Not that they're bad, but because my skin will not allow me to wear clothes, you know. So now I used to call the HR because, duh, of course, I can't tell them, you know, I can't come to work today because I can't wear my clothes. Nobody will take me seriously, right? So, and of course, I can't say, okay, I can't come to work because I'm having a lupus flare. First of all, she'd ask her, what's a lupus? What's that? So I used to say, okay, so I can't come to work today because um, my joints are really painful. As you know, I have arthritis, um, and I'm not able to come to work today. So that is how I used to get by because I realized at another place where I was working, um, I tried to tell my manager, you know, about my situation because it's the time I got rained on consecutively for like a week. And now I couldn't, it was very painful for me to go to work. So I missed a day of work. So I picked myself up another day. I went to work and I told her, okay, fine. Doreen, you have to tell her what is happening because she might get the wrong idea. Okay, fine. So I tell her, you know, I have this condition, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, I've never heard of it. I don't know what that is. Are you sure you're not lying? I'm like, no, no, I'm not lying. It's actually a serious condition. Unfortunately, people have it. Um, and I am one of those people. And sometimes it's difficult for me to come to work very early. So instead of me coming here, being here by 8, by 10 in the morning, I can definitely be here because it's a bit warmer. So, Doreen, you want special treatment at work, right? Like, no, 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 I don't have special treatment. I'm just saying that I'm not able to be here at 8 in the morning. If you could just excuse me to be here at 10, I can leave work later. I don't mind. Oh, so now you're setting your own rules. No, 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 no. I'm saying that I can't be here at 8. I can be here from 10. Instead of leaving at 4, I can leave here at 6. I don't have an issue with that. Oh, so now you're the manager. No, 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 no. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that because of the condition that I have, the lupus that I spoke to you about, and now it's cold and I was rained on. It's very difficult for me to miss the time of coming at 8, but I can be here at 10 because it's warmer and I can leave here at 6, no problem at all. So did that happen? Yes, but the manager used to give me the side eye all the time. I realized that, you know, in terms of work, your manager or my manager rather, let me not say yours, my manager had a difficult time understanding what I had. Another place that I went, I remember the HR manager told me, you know, you should give us because I used to, unfortunately, I had a very bad flare, and I used to tell her, you know, I can't come to work today because I'm very sick right now. Okay, so when I do go to work, she used to say, Doreen, you should always put in your calendar so that you don't inconvenience all of us. I'm like, huh? So for her, it was like I was doing it on purpose, you know, and it was very sad for me because I'm trying to be open about my situation with my manager, my colleague. Um, but unfortunately, not many people do realize or do understand what lupus is. Um, if you tell them, okay, it's because I have diabetes, yeah, they know that. You tell them I have cancer, they say, yeah, okay, I'm so sorry about that. Yeah. But when you say lupus, they look at you like, it's like you're making up something that doesn't exist. So that is what I have experienced at work, in school. Um, but that is why it's important for me to tell myself, though my body might seem broken, my mind is not. So even like now, when I'm not able to walk very well, um, at least I know my mind is working, and I'm thankful for that. So I try to keep myself active. I read some journals sometimes. It's quite a fun thing to do. Just do some research, just read something so that my mind does not stay stagnant. So I thrive with lupus by encouraging myself, and I also get encouragement from my support network. Um, so that gives me a lot of joy, and at least I know that the purpose that I want to fulfill, I won't fulfill like other people, but I'll fulfill it in my own way. And I'm happy about that, and I'm happy for myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause and appreciation for Doreen for telling us her story, which which is something that is truly impressive and also quite in cases disheartening because of the reaction from her former employer, which is quite, it's alarming because why people think that you're trying to steal their time because you're working for them is something that I think, in terms of work culture, should be ironed out as we go forward, because people are not machines. And first of all, we appreciate that you're able to pull what do you call it? Is it reframing? Would you say that, in the sense that yes, my mind is the thing that will drive what it is that I'm working on, whether my body is not able to keep up, or in any case where it is doing its own thing and preventing you from going to a place of public facing work kind of situation. And your mind is then, you're thinking, this is what helps to get the work done, this is what is working, this is what will achieve these goals. And I just want to say that we are grateful for your story, and also the fact that you have highlighted the main issues that are affecting those who are living with lupus in their work environment, and the work that you're going towards helping that be addressed in any small way, shape, or form, because this is the supporters who are here, they learn more and they understand better, and they go, okay, we need to be also advocates for our colleagues and our friends who are clearly working towards thriving with lupus, and we're thankful for that. So we all take those words to heart, and we tunasema pole for how your boss reacted. That was their own ignorance. So mahali yuko, I hope they know better now. Yeah. So thank you very much, and God bless. So there you go. Now we have another story that you can add to our toolkit, our quiver, when we're discussing with our colleagues or friends and family about the way people who are living with lupus are able to overcome certain hurdles or refine the way they perceive their function in those particular places. And that in itself is something very important to keep in mind and have people be educated on, because that's the only way we'll be able to move forward in this aspect and create environments where our lupus warriors can thrive. And that in itself serves into that idea of fulfilling a fulfilling purpose, whether it is something that you end up doing in an entrepreneurial capacity or you're working for someone or in a corporation environment, which tend to be a lot more what's the word, to be they a bit more restrictive in the way you're supposed to interact or operate within that space. So thank you so much. In the way that we look forward, there are many things that I think everyone here, whether they have a chronic condition or not, how you've interacted with your own in your own work environment, where you've perhaps had clashes with HR because of maybe illness or insurance issues, or whether you're, how many sick days you have versus not, how many you've used versus not. And the thing that I would wonder is if anybody has had positive interactions with their work HR situation like this, where perhaps you found that for a particular season you were dealing with something and then you had to use more time than you're allocated for being unwell, which in itself is a very interesting interesting aspect of work life, where someone has determined that because of your age or relative circumstance that you probably will not be sick more than 3 weeks in an entire year, because we all know how everybody's body would be working. So you've been, how do you put this? Your calendar. You have to decide to plan when your illness will show up or leave you alone. So yeah. The, ah yeah. Thank you, Yogi, for letting pointing that out. Rita, would you like to share something? I think your hand was up.
Yes, Ed. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for guiding us on this
Yeah, welcome.
session. And I also wanted to say, to Doreen, I'm sorry for the negative experiences in the workplace in regards to maybe the challenges you had when you're having the lupus flare-ups, and this is a busy work environment where people don't take time to ask how is someone doing, what are the challenges someone could be facing. Maybe you're not so close with your colleagues, or maybe you work in a maybe in an environment where you and your colleagues you don't work closely together, so you might be a bit isolated. So from my experience personally, I wanted to ask, um, lupus, uh, we as we have been going through these sessions, we understand how it presents itself to the warriors, right? But how about in the workplace when you're talking about a human resource and the work policies? Should we be the ones as maybe the warriors? If we were warriors, are we the ones supposed to disclose our illness and how it presents itself, so that in case of any issues, like in case of flare-ups, that the human resource is able to understand these issues before they happen, right? And another issue I wanted to ask in regards to lupus, because it presents itself differently in different warriors, would it be considered a disability, right? And based on it being considered a disability, would that mean that in a workplace environment you're able to present to those papers that I have this chronic illness, and it qualifies as a disability? Am I able to be accommodated by the organization, so that even when I'm sick, this and this arrangements can be made, so that I'm not penalized for the days I don't come to work, so that I don't face any stigma, so that there's some sort of confidentiality between the human resource and the warriors? Is there a way that they can get support from the organization once they're able to disclose the challenges they have thriving with lupus in the workplace? In my personal experience, I don't, okay, there's someone I was ever working with a few years ago, and we worked together consistently for around 1.5 years. And okay, I never got sick at the time we used to work, but there was a time I got a bacterial infection. So how it presented itself is like I was so dizzy, I was vomiting, I was shivering, just the way it usually does. But that morning I was like, okay, what I can do, I can go through the workplace and tell this person I'm unwell as I proceed to the hospital. Okay. See, because I've always been, I had always been on good terms with this person, and this person, I thought they knew me well enough. Okay. When I reached there, I told them I'm unwell. Do you know they told me like I'm pretending? Okay. So of course that was shocking to me, and after insisting that I tried to work and I was really sick, I saw the intervention of my supervisor, who told the person like, this person is sick, you can excuse them for 2 days, and that's what happened. But now I'm looking at the bigger picture where we have someone, maybe a warrior with a chronic illness. uh, just the way Doreen has said, lupus is not well known. There are other illnesses which are not in the public sphere. People don't have a lot of education on it. There could be someone with eye problems, kidney diseases. You know, there are so many types of diseases. So in those situations, you find there are people who stigmatize people with chronic illnesses by saying, why did you get sick suddenly? Maybe there's a work meeting that's coming around that time. Maybe there's some sort of what do they call it? Appraisal. You know. So how do we deal with this? If we were warriors, how do we approach the HR so that we're able to avoid this kind of wrangles in the workplace that even cause stress on the lupus warrior, leading to, of course, flare-ups. So this is something I wanted to know from our warriors, and even our supporters can, tell us more about what I'm thinking. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Rita. Those are very good questions. Excellent questions. And sorry for also what you went through when you were unwell. That wasn't right, but we're glad that there's somebody in your corner to help in your situation. And rightly so, our warriors tend to face interactions where that support might be lacking. So the floor is open to the warriors to address any and all.
I can try to answer one. Um, Lupus is not considered a disability in Kenya, not yet anyway. Um, However, you have to get registered. And these days, at least, they allow you to be registered as a lupus warrior. Before they did not, because you go for the assessment and you look fine and healthy, so they don't understand what you're trying to say. But these days, I'm happy that it has changed. That even when you go for the assessment, they don't look at you sideways, you know. So unfortunately, we're not there yet. The reason why we're not there yet is because um, not many people are diagnosed correctly. And also to get that diagnosis is expensive. And not many people have the funds to do that. Um, what else can I say? And also, unfortunately, some people in some workplaces um, are not that accepting of what you're trying to say. But with time, I believe they will be. In Kenya, the best thing that you can do is to be registered as a person with a disability. And these days, you register with the government, right? So you have, before you used to have the disability card, but these days you have to register directly to the government using eCitizen, And that is a good thing because at least you're protected, right? In a way in the workplace, in what you're doing. It's very important. So for those who have not been registered, I suggest and I hope that you do plan to do so. It happens when you register, you do it again every 5 years, something like that. So please purpose to do that. And if you're doing that, it has to be at a level 5 hospital, not just a private hospital, because before sometimes that was being taken advantage of, right? Like somebody will say, "Oh my gosh, I have this condition," and then like they don't pay taxes and stuff like that. So they used to benefit a lot, from pretending that they have a condition which they do not have. So these days, at least the government has clamped down on that, and at least now again you are protected. So when you go to the office or when you're working with somebody who um, does not treat you well because of your condition, at least you can say, yes, this is what I have in terms of what you can do. That one, I mean, legally, that one I cannot attest to. I've never done it, but I'm sure other people here might have that information. But yeah, right now we are getting there to be registered, to be seen as a disability. So we are getting there. We just need to keep telling people and, attesting to people that lupus warriors are not liars, as people like to think.
Thank you so much, Doreen. Yeah, that that whole aspect of being called your, what do you call it, your character being attacked because of things like that is it's disheartening. And yeah, you're not liars. It's also unfortunate that people gamed the system so they could benefit from the tax exemption. Um, yeah, but that doesn't mean that you should have any kind of blanket situation where everyone is treated with the same suspicion. But that's ideal. So clearly, it's important that if you're a lupus warrior, then it would make sense to have that kind of assessment and application done for disability. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing a story again, and also for answering Rita's question. There anyone else who has similar insight or different insights to the questions that she asked, or your own experiences in your work situation, do feel free to engage.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Um, Thank you for the great day that God has given us. I'm going to talk about this working or living with the lupus. Yes, I support a person close to the lupus warrior. From the time of diagnosis, I think I gave up myself. I got into denial that I couldn't even want to tell anybody about my child having lupus simply because I had been told that there is no treatment for it. And so I kept on wondering, now, if there's no treatment, what do I do? I felt like the world has come to an end. But as I moved on and I remembered, wow, keeping quiet will really put me down, I started talking about it with my friends at work. I would tell them, that call that came, I have to rush to go to school to check on this girl. Because Doreen, when she was in school, and it used to be very cold in her place of school, and sometimes she used to sit next to the window, and the window is opened. So every time, maybe 1 week, she's down, she's cold, she's in ice in emergencies. But yes, It is difficult to the lupus warrior, to the family as well, and to the close friends. When you come to the family, they don't understand about this lupus. And even the lupus warrior doesn't understand about herself because this is a disease that connects with the hormones in the patient. And sometimes now this warrior might be moody, might not wanted to do anything, and the family members or the close friends are wondering, sasa huyu naye anajifanya namna gani? Without knowing that something is wrong. So until you know, until you are told about lupus, and until you have somebody with lupus, and then you have an experience with that person, it is difficult for you to appreciate that the warriors are surviving in the grace of the Lord. They are resilient and they are strong. Um, when it went to school, even when I have taken her to the hospital and she has been sick for maybe days and she goes back, I've given her a sick sheet from the doctor, but still the lecturer will throw her out of class and say that, you're not the only one to be sick like this. Last week you were sick, now you are again sick. And that used to depress me a lot. I used to feel down. I used to wonder, what do I do? But later on, as I realized that God is there, it came to pass. Supporters, you just have to be firm, strong enough to walk on with these patients or these people with lupus. Lupus warriors have got different dimensions. Today, you might talk to her well. Just 2 hours later on, you can't believe it is the person you are talking to. Yes, it came a time that I wouldn't let her to go out with anybody because I would feel like now anything that is going to happen, what is going to happen there. But it is good when the friends understand about that lupus. It's good when you tell them what can happen to her, what they can look out for when they are out there in the field, whether they have gone out, just tell them what they can look for and encourage the warrior also to be strong and to carry something to keep themselves warm, to carry maybe something for pain so that when they reach there, if it happens, they can be calm enough. Because I can imagine if the warrior is panicking and the person who have gone out with her is also panicking, the situation will be bad. Um, Lupus is just walking, supporting, standing with her, walking with her, being her eyes, just being there for her. Sometimes you'll wake up in the morning, you go in that room, she's so happy to tell you, oh, I have woken up well, blah, blah, blah. And then the next minute you go back, you can't believe what has been happening. But it is well. Continue being strong, my warrior. It's not easy. It is that way that most organizations don't like employing people with lupus because they don't understand. No, it's just because they feel that it will be a waste of time because these people will be sick most of the time, and so they will be spending a lot on them, and that's why they don't actually like. It is like their liabilities. You don't want to have liabilities in your farm. So that's why in most cases you'll find that these people they don't get employment. And if you are employed, they will try to find ways either to make you retire on medical grounds because they don't want to do that. And since lupus was not the awareness was not there in the years before, it's just now that some people know about it, but still they don't take it serious as when they have a client who is having cancer in the same institution. Preferences will be given to this person with cancer and say, okay, she was done this, so let her not have this type of work, let her come at this time. But this guy with the lupus, apparently they are few, but it is difficult for them. No one understands them. And no one is even bothered because most of the days when you see this guy, she's very, very normal. Akikwambia ati sasa nilikuwa sijui ninasikia uchungu sana, you are wondering. When you look at her face, she's very normal, so she must be making it up. But even though you teach, you tell these people about lupus, it takes also time for somebody to have interest in it. If you tell me and I'm not interested in hearing, there's no change I'm going to make. So when you go to the place of work and maybe you tell your manager or your next immediate supervisor, if she's not interested in listening, she might just there listening because she wants you to talk. But if she's not there for you, then definitely you'll have a rough time at the place of work. Even in the family they don't understand about what is going on in the lupus warrior, and it takes time. You'll find that even her friends will fall off. At the beginning, you'll have many friends because when they tell you, yeah, can we go out? You say, yeah, we shall go out. But then at times, you'll find that that day, when it comes, you can't make it. And as you continue having this frequent of saying, I cannot come because I am unwell, they start falling away from you. In fact, even they stop calling you. They don't want to associate with you. So if you have a friend who has lupus, just be there for her or for him. You can just call to find out how that person is doing. And that gives encouragement to her. You are really supporting her to be strong. Lupus has got many, many, many things. You just need to understand the person, and then life will be well. The more you support her, the more she becomes strong. But the more you just call her once in a blue moon, it makes her feel lonely because she has no one to talk to. She can't go out because in the situation where she is, she cannot come out and go to visit somebody. And so she becomes lonely in her room or lonely in the house where she's staying. And when you are lonely, mentally you start building many things. So what I can leave here is that as long as you have a friend who has lupus, keep on talking to her, keep on calling her, just to find out how she is, just to give her an encouragement word so that she can continue moving. But the lupus warriors are very resilient and they are very smart. They can do things that I myself would not have done. Some of them, the way I know them is that they know how to keep time. They know how to do their things, and they do their things and finish in a smart time, not like the way I would have done myself. They are very smart. It's only that they don't have, no one has given them an opportunity to do those jobs. We pray for them and we wish them well. Everything we leave in God's hands. As we walk with them, let's all join hands and support each warrior that we know. I leave that to you guys. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for working with Lupus Warriors. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You have truly laid it out for us to truly appreciate what the Lupus Warrior goes through, and the extent it goes outside of their immediate uh, immediate lives, but also their private lives, where there is truly quite a whole aspect of challenge that the supporters may not be fully appreciative of, and that is something we need to take to heart. That yes, just showing up and then also being supportive and checking in is something very important, especially where we're talking about the way this can affect their lives, or how if somebody is working while living with lupus in their goal to thrive with lupus, that sometimes these pressures can also come home with them, and if they're dealing with that particular thing, and then also what's going on in a minute to minute minute to minute case, that's what I meant, that all these things can just add up and can also make things a lot more serious, and in some cases actually very overwhelming. So our call to action is to reach out, be supportive, and also where we can do a little bit more than what we would than what we think you are capable of. Thank you so much, and we appreciate that you're there, you've taken care, you're in, and we're truly blessed that you have been holding each other during this entire journey. So thank you so much. So we appreciate all the people who have raised their hands, and also, wamepea claps and what do you call it, the celebratory confetti. We thank you for that. So there we go. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So in that respect, you find that clearly this is not something that is just like a, what do you call it, footnote that somebody puts appends in their own book of thing to do tomorrow. This is something that is evergreen. It's always ongoing, happening day in, day out. And as our lupus warriors look for ways to thrive in whatever capacity they're able to, then those of us who are supporters, our drive is to help where we can, anytime we can. And I think that is truly the picture that will allow our lupus warriors to thrive, because this is something that I don't think is truly possible to just do on your own. This is to use the, what do you call it, the corporate culture speak of, this is a team effort. There is no I in team. Those wonderful adages that we've all had wherever we've worked at some point in time. So in that respect, then what I would yeah, what I would also want to ask is, for those of us who are here today, in the sense that we are trying to see how to learn more and then go out of our way to try and make the world a better place for all of us, supporters as well as warriors, whether there's anything that any of us has tried to move the wheel forward in our places of work, or if not even work, just environments where we find that those that we care for or who we support, our loved ones, trying to improve their situation where they are trying to thrive with lupus. Whether it's just being a bestie for listening in case somebody's having a rough day at work, that kind of supportive aspect. Because I find that in many cases in our work environments, especially in this modern day and age, that there's a lot that is asked from us during that period that we are contracted or employed to be productive, whether it's 8 hours or 12 hours, day shift or night shift, service industry or manufacturing, whichever place you find yourself, that you find that in many situations you might not be able to have someone where you can just pull aside, go somewhere and talk it out so that you support each other emotionally. That kind of emotional support, which is very crucial. And we don't want to bottle up these things before we leave wherever we're working, because that stuff can come home with you and make things a lot worse for your immediate family and yourself. So in this case, I would like to say that there are many times where when you start work somewhere, that you tend to look for somebody who becomes your close pal, so that you can just survive the day. Thank you, Catherine. Would you like to say something or to add on what has been said? Welcome. Sorry, don't worry about that. That's okay. Anyway, my long rambling answer is basically, how many of us have work besties, and how important are they to your day-to-day goings on? So, and if you have any stories of where your work bestie came through for you, do let us know, because that is how we truly thrive together. In my personal case, I have had quite a number of work besties, and they have helped me out in many cases where they have held me back from making bad decisions at work. They have also helped me in a situation of keeping my supervisor informed in case of something that has happened, whether it's at home or or in the workplace. So I think those of us who are on the outside, if you are able to support somebody who's in the office and they have this condition, they let you know, then you do your best to go as far as you can to help them out and support their case. So in light of that, I don't know whether it's anything that somebody would like to give their own story on, or I don't want to call it testimony, but you can share your experience about having somebody who you can rely on at work. So far, we've heard that clearly there's been a challenge in that power dynamic of an employer-employee relationship, where it tends to be very one-sided. But if there are any positive interactions that you've had, and in the kind of environment that it happened in, then please do share, because I think that would also be something that can be used in terms of the way we want to help change the aspects of working and thriving with a chronic condition.
I can share one. In a place where I was working, um, the good thing that I found was that after, talking with my supervisor, manager at that time, and just talking about the condition, how it affects me, and also, of course, what I can do, in terms of my work and how I can deliver, became to a good arrangement whereby I could work from home sometimes, which was good. And like, especially during months when it's very cold, I used to just work from home. As long as I deliver the things that I need to give, that was something good, because um, it was rare for me to find that kind of compassion, that kind of support in the workplace. So, do you always have to share your situation? It's a 50-50. Sometimes, initially, I never used to, because I had seen that it was never met well. But sometimes, again, you do find people who are willing to listen. And I think right now, people are more open, people are more receptive, and people are more accountable, and they have some more compassion these days. So I think that if you feel that you can share with your manager about your situation, or how you can work around rather your situation, to do your work well and to also deliver, then I think that's okay. I'm not saying go do it without knowing or without having this conversation. That one is up to you to decide for yourself, um, because you're seeing what is happening, you're seeing how the relationship is, you're seeing for yourself and gauging the situation. So that is just my experience, and I hope that that can work for you too.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Is there anyone else who's had similar experience? You can show me by raising your hand.
Hello again.
Hello.
If you are in the supervisory leadership management and you are maybe supervising a few people or in your places of work, and you have somebody with a chronic illness, it might be cancer, it might be HIV, it might be lupus as well. You as the manager, you need to make up your own observation and support that person. Because if you don't support the person, then the output will be very low. For instance, when you have a patient, maybe a client who has maybe chronic illness, it can be cancer, and maybe she's going for radiotherapy, she's going for chemotherapy, it is good for you as the supervisor to just weigh the situation and say, okay, you went for the chemotherapy or radiotherapy, just get 2 days off for you to rest before you come to work. And even when she comes to work, try to make sure that you give her not heavy duty, but give her enough time that she can work and go home mapema to rest. This is just an individual deciding, looking at that person and saying, this is how it is going to work. I remember in the olden days when I was still working, I had my 2 clients, my staff who were all having cancer, and they had all gone for surgery, and they were all on radiotherapy, they were all on chemotherapy, and it was hard. And if I allowed them to work continuously as the others, then they were going to be sick, to be given sick off. And sick off was meant to be maybe a week she's not coming to work. So I made up my decision that every week, these people must have 2 days off. And they work half day. And I never had that shortage of staff because they were always working and they knew they were going to rest. And I never had a problem with them. But if you make them work and stress them, then they will be stressed and they will not work. So for you people who are there, you are working, just always check on your colleague. If she has a chronic illness, don't stress them. Try to cope with her situation. Give her time to rest. Encourage that staff or that colleague of yours. They will usually make it in a positive way. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you once again. That is we appreciate your insights because yeah, I think this is something that comes down to an individual. It's not something that we should truly expect can be organizational. It's not something that we say they can't do, but truly the size of the organization itself will determine whether they have that kind of hands-on and extent to just allow somebody to take the time they need to rest and recover and rejuvenate, but the individual supervisor or whoever is managing or whoever had the dynamic that exists where you're working, the relationship itself will determine that. And we do hope that more so than less, or more so than not, more so than not, that these people will take into account that it's not that you don't want to work. That is not the situation. That is not the goal. We're not showing up to just, sit there and take up time. We're able to do something when we're able to do it, and if you allow us, accommodate us with what we are working through or dealing with, then the work will be done, and also your employee will be healthier and most likely happier, because they are not dealing with a negative or toxic situation. So yeah, it comes down to an individual, at least in the moment. Perhaps in the future, as the culture is adjusted, maybe not the near future, but in the future, where we find that more empathetic aspects are brought into how we handle the people who are working with us or for us. Thank you very much. That was a very deep insight that I think I have also overlooked when I was telling my own stories earlier on. And also I appreciate, because it brings a more complete picture of what it's like. And also we're grateful that you are able to extend that kind of compassion to your colleagues, so that they're able to get the work done and also recover. Thank you so much, and be blessed for that. I continue to open the floor for anyone else who has been in such a situation, or who has informed a situation like this and helped them have a more positive outcome, where they are working to achieve something or thriving with lupus or the chronic conditions that are facing you, or the complications thereof. Because I think, based off of what Doreen said earlier, when you are in the process of applying for disability, which I think may not be like immediate, how you navigate that aspect of you are dealing with what is technically a disability, and you're also trying to get the work that you're supposed to be doing done. And within that, I would also add that we did have a short period of time where there was, for very terrible reasons, we were able to shift things a little bit with remote work, where somebody could work from like at home, get the work done, and not have to be there. Now, not all jobs are able to take advantage of this particular development, but this was a development that helped people who are dealing with like chronic illnesses to at least participate in work without having to overextend themselves when they are not able to. So yes, if anybody has an experience within that scope, please do share with us. I think we're getting a lot of really good insights from our little open mic discussion here today. Feel free to raise your hand, and then I'll pick, and then you can just tell us your story.
Hello.
Hello again. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Thank you. Welcome back.
the relationship or thriving with the lupus does not really only work at workplace and family. I'm looking at it like this girl is married, and then unfortunately they discover she has lupus. That relationship between the husband, the in-laws, it's going to be very dynamic. because in first step is that lupus has got issues that even if you are married, it can easily make you not have babies, or you have miscarriages, or you don't conceive as early as they want. And lupus itself, it has this fatigue that you cannot even wake up and do some things. Lupus itself, it will make you don't want even anyone to touch you. So I'm looking at it like, how does the husband cope up with this lady with lupus? And how does the wife also cope up with a husband who has been diagnosed with lupus? And how does the in-laws look at this couple? I have heard of some couple, that the in-laws could not cope up with that. And so the marriage had to be dissolved. So just think about it, because relationship is not only at work, it is also your friendship. How do these people live with this situation? Just a thought about it. Can we discuss? Not necessarily the place of work, but this is someone who is now married. Should she stay single, or they live with that like that? That's a question.
Thank you for that question. So yeah, definitely that's something that we can talk about outside of the work environment. The aspects of intimacy and whether somebody and the relationships within like a marriage or a long-term partnership, when the lupus actually affects the like the natural expectations of what a marriage should be, whether it is family planning, whether it's those situations of intimacy, and then also just like building a home and all the things that would affect what maybe a wife is able to do, or and what would be expected, whether those are things that can be achieved or not, and how a couple can navigate those kinds of hurdles. Because as has been rightly said, it's not just the workplace that determines everything about what someone who's living with lupus has to interact or do to achieve their own life's purpose. These are things that are very personal to someone, and quite how to put this, they can be very, very painful issues to deal with, because certain things are desired and maybe they might not be able to be achieved, because the lupus itself can make all aspects of those things incredibly difficult to either overcome or even get to the point of starting to build the things that you want to build as either married couple, or even if you are single, those kinds of things where you might be looking to see how to engage in emotional intimacy or physical intimacy. So because as the topic rightly said, it's thriving the lupus, so forgive me for being a bit hyper focused on that whole work aspect. But yeah, this is something that also very, 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 very heavily contributes to what our own personhood, how we see ourselves, and how we see ourselves within others or together. So please do share, those who are able to share. You don't have to be like, be very open, but you can let us know what you've been facing, if that's something that is part of your everyday life. If not, then perhaps something around the way you've been seeing how you'd want to achieve these things if it is within what you want to achieve. Thank you. Okay, I'd also want to add one aspect of that someone can speak to, whether there is how, especially since it's something that we're talking about that is something so personal and deeply affecting, how the aspects of psychological care can be taken into account. Whether counseling in this sense will probably definitely play a big part, because there are clearly things here where you'd need to, in your own capacity, be able to discuss with someone to see how to overcome. Like you mentioned something very that I think a lot of women have dealt with outside of living with lupus, which is something like like complications in pregnancies and the like. So, in my understanding, I would, and this is something that can be corrected, where I would think that having somebody who has that capacity for counseling, whether it's a professional person, or even in this case where you find that the Lupus Warriors' own parent can help in terms of discussing these things, because it's something that I think one person's experience can inform the other person's experience and see how they can overcome it, as well as you to deal with the grief of such things, and eventually also come out the other side of it, because it's not the end all be all end all of the way we live our lives, but it is something that I think still goes back to what we've said at the beginning, which essentially is the tenet. It is the pillar for everything that we've been discussing right now, whether it comes to advocacy or the environment or our relationships or what we want to achieve within our relationships, which is the people who form your support network, as well as their own skill sets. So in the way I think somebody who can offer that, whether it's professional counseling services to help discuss this, is very crucial and important. And that actually brings me to something I think that anyone here can raise their hands to, or they can talk about, is how often do you have a sensibility of people interacting with counseling services or counselors? We have had in the past counselors who have participated in previous sessions, and they've taken us through the neuropsychiatric aspects of lupus, but then also other things like dealing with the psychological impacts of being a lupus warrior. And right now, going back to that, there's a thesis of everything that we've been doing, which comes to the idea of thriving with lupus in our own lives, whether this is something that people are actively not looking forward to, but actively have included into their own toolkit of dealing with their lives today, whether as lupus warriors or supporters, whether you are flirted with the idea of counseling or not. And it doesn't have to be somebody who is a professional counselor. We may not have those what do you call it, like, not medical prescriptions, but things a counselor would prescribe you, like how to handle a particular situation, or helping with the self-reflection. But it can also be like somebody who in your own family or support network who has, in a sense, fulfilled this role, because the issues that have just been raised that were outside of the workplace are very personal and in many cases private issues that people deal with, and can become overwhelming in their own sense, and is a part of life that is not, we can't really ignore, but we can acknowledge. So for myself, I have, of course, in some cases interacted with a kind of counseling adjacent consultations. In one case, it was a life coach session to help with particular issues that are affecting my own productivity and the like. It was a very helpful session, and it was very illuminating because you find that most of the things that we're dealing with, like we're talking about work or personal relationships and the like, whether they are formed by something that happened in your past or present, you find that we tend to put our own blocks on how to go forward or doing things. And there are, in many cases, things that you can at least shift, if not altogether move at once. Like sort of like today, tomorrow, the problem is solved, but it's a case of little by little you chip away at the thing that is preventing you from going forward, and eventually over time, with the counseling, or at least with the tools that the counseling has given you, or the coaching, that you're able to remove the block. What you're left with is basically some dust, residual aspects, because this is the kind of thing that comes into your own story of where, like today, when you're sharing your stories and your experiences, that form this kind of what do you call this? This kind of skill set to handle the things that we'll be facing, and with some of the very intimate problems that have been addressed over here, like whether your skin is responsive in times when you're not able to allow for that responsiveness. In some cases, like we talked about earlier, where it's just even just sitting in your own by yourself doing things, and then suddenly your skin is like, I don't want clothes, which can become very problematic, even if you are just sitting there and you're trying to journal for the day, whether that is something that you would keep to your own self, or there is somebody you would reach out to and say, okay, there's a thing that's happening. It's not very common or something that anybody else would be able to attest to, but this is what's going on. And then you go from there. So if anybody has gone down this road or this route and they are okay with sharing it with us, you don't have to, but if you're okay with sharing it with us, then you can let us know, because at the end of the day, this is about thriving. And when somebody is thriving, you're trying to remove generally all the blocks or the impedance, is that correct, or something that would impede your progress in achieving the goals that you want, whether it is from the outside to the within. Okay. In another way, then, if not, how many people here have mentors who to an extent also fulfill that capacity? Anyone have mentors, or they had mentors where they were in their daily lives? Because I think mentorship is something that's really important. Probably not as it's something that I think is a far better interaction as a person to deal with, rather than apprenticeship, because apprenticeship, I feel, is just like really focused on achieving a particular professional skill, whether it's something like metal work or woodwork and the things like that. And we don't expect our mentors to be counselors as well, because that's also a lot of weight for that person to have. But I think mentors also help give us a direction or north star of what it is we want to achieve, and help us thrive as Lupus Warriors, or supporters, or just our own personal selves in what we are working towards. All right. Okay. I'll talk about my own aspects of mentorship. I had a mentor when I started my first job, and they were very, very helpful, in the sense that they always told me that it was about how well, how well you're able to do something, and also to not be too afraid of achieving whatever it is you want to achieve. And the main thing that they shared was, you shouldn't be afraid to ask questions, because there, in many cases, things that we get involved in, or things that we're doing, and you do something and you don't seek any kind of clarification, because you're like, I was told to do X, or I was advised to do X and then I just did it, but there's a point where I didn't know what to do or how to proceed. And then mistakes are made. Now, mistakes are not altogether terrible, but there are some mistakes that can actually be pretty costly to self as well as others. So in that sense, I think the the biggest lesson that was imparted to me by that mentor for the short time that I was able to interact with them was that you should ask questions in itself, and it's something that I have not always done well. It's a lesson that was imparted but not deeply internalized, because in many cases I feel that when you're trying to do something, you don't want to feel like a burden to anyone, so you just want to push forward and get the thing done, and hopefully you get it right. And in some cases that has gone not very well, but that asking questions aspect is something that I think we all carry with us wherever we go. But in some cases we're not able to ask the question because either we feel it's either rude or too embarrassing to show that you don't have knowledge of a particular thing, or you don't fully understand what you are discussing or what you've been told. But that aspect of asking those questions, which comes down to what we're doing today, which is asking questions and then also seeking whatever answers that are available to us at this point in time, such as being told about the learning about how is an individual interaction that can help somebody improve their life situation in terms of thriving, whether it is the little things that you can do to improve your situation, like applying for disability or interacting with your supervisor and explaining things clearly. Also, going beyond that, the questions about like somebody who's a lupus warrior, understanding the extent of what they're dealing with, whether it's in the workplace or at home privately, whether it's asking your own parents for their own experiences with something personal that has happened to you, as we were informed here today. Is that something that you're able to do? Sometimes you feel that there are some questions you don't want to ask your parents because you don't know whether they'd be able to provide those answers without any kind of hemming and hawing. But I think at this point, what we can say is that there are a number of us here as Lupus supporters who can technically operate as, in a mentorship capacity. For those who are outside the circle, or those who do not know about lupus and our lupus warriors, that we're offering them that role, that we say, okay, come under my wing and I'll walk you through this so that you can understand better what our lupus warriors are dealing with and what they are able to do and how they can go forward and continue thriving. So I think that is a particularly important thing, which is to ask questions. Quite really. And quite a few were asked today, quite a few were answered, and we're very appreciative of that. And I want to say thank you to everyone who has asked a question or answered a question, and those who have listened to the questions and the answers. I send a very big, what do you say? Very big thank you, our gratitude for that. And it's in that aspect that I would at least allow for the floor one last time to see whether this is something that in your lives, going around the room, this is something that you do day to day, asking questions in whatever capacity, in whatever environment, or it's something that you are looking to do more of going forward. I certainly am working towards asking more questions. It is a major aspect of myself that I do not do very well. But we are here as the community trying and actually doing. And so far it's been going pretty well, and we are appreciative of that. Deeply, deeply, deeply appreciative. So thank you. If anybody can attest to that whole aspect of being somebody who asks the questions, hard questions or not, do let us know. Doreen?
Thriving in your relationships. Um, I think sometimes um, when dating somebody or being married to somebody who is a lupus warrior, challenges may come um, regarding intimacy with your partner. You know, um, I know a few people who are married who do have lupus. They have a family, they have kids, but when a flare has come, and or even sometimes when their body just feels really painful and tender, all these things, sometimes it's really hard for the partner to understand that they cannot be intimate with them. It's not that they don't want to, it's just that the body cannot allow for these things. Um, and even in relationships, the same thing will happen. So I don't know um, how willing the spouse of this person would be in having counseling, right? Um, Especially regarding the situation. I'm just wondering about that, or some type of coaching, or even if they're even open to those things, because sometimes the spouse has already decided, in this case, the spouse is a man, that you just don't want to be with them, you don't want anything to do with them, you don't want to be intimate with them, and it can be really painful for the warrior because they really want to, and that painful again because how come my partner does not understand we have been married all this time, and you still don't get it, or we have been dating all this time and you still don't get it. So even in relationships, even before marriage, it would also be a good step um, to have discussions about lupus, about how lupus um, may affect the relationship. It's not that the person does not want to be in the relationship, because sometimes maybe you guys want to go out on a date and stuff like that, but then unfortunately you cannot, not of your own will, but because the condition is the way it is. um, and so I think it's difficult to thrive in a relationship whereby your partner does not support you, or your partner does not offer you compassion or any empathy. I think that can be a difficult situation for you to thrive, and especially in that relationship. Um, if you're married, the same thing can happen. If you're dating, you can just let the relationship go and leave it alone. But with marriage, it's not that simple, right? So that one I'd like to hear from those who are married, um, because they would have more input. For those who are dating, I can give a small input that once upon a time I was dating someone, and this issue came up, and it's so painful because I have told you, we have talked about it so many times, but then when it happens, it's like you have amnesia of all the things we talked about. It's like, oh, but I didn't know. But yes, you did know, right? So I think it's just an ongoing discussion that needs to happen over and over and over again, to protect yourself, to protect your partner, whether you're dating, whether you're married. It's the same thing because everybody has emotions, they have feelings in any relationship they get into, right? So I don't know if the concept of counseling has changed, right? Especially with men. In terms of receiving counseling, I know people are becoming more open to that, but I don't think we are there yet, where a guy will say, okay, I'm going for counseling because this is happening. I don't think we're there yet. We should be, but we're not there yet. Um, but I continue to be hopeful because I also empathize with them. I mean, when you're going out to date somebody, you don't go out and say, oh, yeah, I'm okay with dating somebody who has this condition, you know, and I'm confident that I can date this person with this condition. I don't think that's how people would go into I want to date. The first thing that they look for is a person who does not have a specific condition. You know, they want to date a normal, quote unquote, person, right? So even now with lupus, you do look normal, quote unquote, but then now the problems come, right? Your joints and your skin and all these things. So I also empathize with them, with a partner, because it's not easy for them also. Um, and I think we do need more awareness, and especially regarding relationships, right? Because some people even just stop bothering to date, to get to know people because they know, or because of what they have seen in their lives in terms of the reception that they do have lupus, which has not been positive. So I think that's a conversation that really needs to happen, especially now that young people, some young people are now being diagnosed with lupus. It's hard, right? Um, so I think we also need to give them some grace and have more conversations about relationships and lupus for the two of you to thrive together. And for you who perhaps is open to dating somebody with lupus, um, to also open your mind to understand the nuances that come with dating with lupus. Sorry, not dating with lupus, dating somebody with lupus, whether a man or a woman. Um, so more conversation needs to be had around that issue, is what I think.
Thank you again, Doreen. Um, that was illuminating and also intense. Thank you for that. That is something that I think everyone needs to internalize. And I agree that it would be good to hear from those who, especially when talking about a marriage context, from those who are actually married. And we cannot attest to that, but we would be willing to hear that kind of the interaction, as well as their situation and how they deal with it. And this is something that I think that for those who are looking into dating or are dating, something that you have to keep in mind, that you have to be fully aware of every aspect of the person that you're dating, whether they are living with lupus or not. And it's something that cannot be it's not something to be dismissed or taken lightly, but to be understood and the situation appreciated as well. Thank you so much for that. It's something that we are going to take to heart and keep in mind, especially as you mentioned that there are more and more people who are being diagnosed with this in their earlier years, the formative years, and it's something that they need to have the ability to communicate well. And as you mentioned, we are not fully aware whether more men are taking up this aspect of counseling. We would like to believe that it's something that they're exploring, but it is something important that I think men should actually take into account for their own mental health as well, because it is from them that others are also affected by the state of their own mental health. So yeah, something definitely that can be discussed, looked into, and then also encouraged. So here's to looking forward to learning more about that particular aspect, where more men are taking this as a part of their own self-care routine in their daily lives, and then also on the dating and intimacy aspects, that we are hoping and believing that this is something that is being taken without any, to say that, like in the situation that you described, where that awareness of self, where you are not imposing any kind of will or convenient amnesia when somebody is not in a position to participate. So I want to say thank you so much for that, and it has truly enriched our experience of understanding what it's like to be a lupus warrior who is working to thrive with while living with lupus. Thank you so much. Okay, I want to say, tell Catherine, teacher Kate, sorry about the Mikey situation. That one, next time, probably will not be there. Usijali. Sometimes technical issues just come for us where we are, and we are trying to live our best lives, and the tech says, you know what, not today. But next time, we shall overcome it. Okay, so I want to say thank you to everyone who was able to give us their time today and has listened very carefully and keenly while you go about your day. We're very appreciative of that. For those who have left just before closing, we also want to say thank you for supporting us, and we do hope that you got something out of this. And we do look forward to having a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend. And yeah, we appreciate you very much. And we are grateful that you have come in and you have shared your stories. And yes, Teacher Kate says thank you, especially to all our lupus warriors. That is something that I can wholeheartedly agree. They are the MVPs in this situation. Sisi tuko hapo tuko kwa bench, tuna support, then we go into the field to help them kick the ball as well, so that we all score that goal. Win-win, as we say. Sawa. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. I want to wish you a wonderful weekend. Be blessed, and thank you for
Before that, Ed,
yes.
Rita has raised up her hand.
Sorry. Once again, Rita, uh, do speak. The reason I am not seeing your hand is because my microphone is blocking. So I'm so sorry. So sorry. Rita, you have the floor. Yeah.
I wanted to say thank you so much. I really had a nice interactive session. Sorry, at some point I dropped off. I was on some phone calls, but it's been amazing hearing all these experiences from our warriors and also listening to the experiences from the supporters. As a parting shot, I want to say, in regards to, maybe thriving with lupus in an environment, maybe in relationships and dating, I wanted to say there is the consideration that maybe the relationship doesn't have to focus on sexual intimacy. There could be other forms of intimacy like quality time, hugs, spending time together, you know. So I want to encourage our warriors and say there are beautiful people out there who are open and they have no issue dating any people from all kinds of the walks of life. So I don't want warriors to pigeonhole themselves and say people would not want to date me. Like Doreen has said, date a normal person. I consider Lupus Warriors to be special, but they're also normal people, and as long as someone has the education of how lupus presents itself, and they're okay with it, I think dating is not something we should put a big deal and say I can't date lupus warrior because I can't get this and this from them. How about you supporting the warrior and meeting them where they are? And from there, you can build a good relationship. So those are just my thoughts about relationships and lupus. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita. That is something that we are definitely putting on hapo juu ya meza for everyone to notice and look at and say, yes, that's a good perspective to have. Yes, it doesn't always have to be like sexual intimacy. You can just be, good together, support, be with each other, be each other's support in that sense. So yeah, so that you can just have that kind of what do you call this? The sense of isolation is not there. That is not what, because in some cases we can extrapolating down the line where we've heard of tales where that aspect of isolation can still exist within those covenants, and that those are unfortunate developments. But thank you so much for that insight. Yes, that is something that definitely can be taken to heart. And yes, normal people, our lupus warriors are normal people with extraordinary capability. Yes, there you go. That is my bon mot of the session. So, yes, if is anyone who has any last thoughts or perspectives they can share. If not, I think I will extend my thanks again to everyone who has contributed. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful Saturday afternoon and a blessed Sunday and a good rest of the month.